it's a experiential container that is so much more than content based. It is about being in community with other business owners who are all doing it their own way. And CBD allows you to find your way to do business and then translate it through your content, while having all of these other people who do business their way, so that you get the evidence that there's not just one way to do business.
Welcome back to Unjaded, or welcome here if this is your first time. I have a very special guest with me today, Juliana Christine. Juliana was one of the participants in Content by Design. She is an empath. She is a rock star working with women who really need to change their lives. She's a human design specialist. She's all kinds of things. So I'm going to let you introduce yourself, Juliana, because you'll do a better job than I will. Can you tell us something about you and your business?
Thank you, Vickie. I'm so happy to be here again. I'm a somatic psychotherapist by trade and a human design specialist. I am also someone who is deeply connected to the emotional realms and the realm of the earth. And where my magic comes in is I really work with women to reconnect and root back into their own bodies, find their voice so that they can create the relationships of their dreams. Because we all know our relationships actually start with us. And it sounds cliche, but it's actually really true. And because it's such a cliche, it's skipped over. It's like, yeah, I know that. We don't know how to anchor into that. And so many women that I work with identify with the term like they're a people pleaser. Because, I mean, honestly, I would say not all, but many women are people pleasers from the world that we live in, right? We have to swallow our voices. We have to cut ourselves off from our deeply intuitive senses. We have to step in and go to work and live in our minds and be in this very masculine world that we live in. And when a woman can drop back into her body and open her voice, it is profound how it can change relationships of all kinds, with herself, with her children, with her girlfriends, with her husband, and with the unseen realms. Because most of the women that I work with are also really curious about, who are my guides? Like, they know there's more out there, right? But they're not sure how to connect to it. And it's all starts within.
That is so beautifully stated. And I'm sitting here going, wow, how far you have come in describing what you do compared to a year and a half ago. Wow, beautiful. Like, you know exactly who you serve and exactly how you serve them. Yeah, so I am going to do a selfless plug here and ask you right now about Content by Design, because I feel like you did a lot of big work in our last round of Content by Design. Can you talk about where you were in your business before you came in and where you are now?
So before Content by Design, I have spent many years finding my way in business and who I'm here to serve and what it is that I actually do. And before Content by Design, I was saying that I was working with empaths and how to like hone their empathic abilities. And there's truth to that. I just hadn't hit the bullseye yet. And in CBD, what happened was because you bring in all of human design, what happened for me is I've been in my human design experiment. I started it in 2018. And I really feel I live as a projector in all aspects of my life, except for business. Business, I still hadn't deconditioned from that because business was so foreign to me. My mind didn't comprehend the business world. And I would say the majority of business coaches that I had worked with through my journey had been manifesting generators, as are you. But this was different because you lead from human design. And so what happened for me in CBD, I remember it was one call where I was like having a meltdown, as I do. I am not afraid to be where I am emotionally. And the support that came through in CBD, from all of the other women in there, was so beautiful. Sometimes I have noticed in the past that my emotions can kind of trigger people because I am so okay with my emotions and many people are not. And what was beautiful about CBD was everyone there was so supportive. They stepped in and were like, what do you need, Juliana? I can come in and do this for you if you need. And it filled me with so much love and acceptance. And after that call, something shifted and I was like, wait a second. I'm so not living like a projector in business. I am so forcing myself. And I got really clear. I was actually deep in prayer, and I heard, you need to pause for 6 weeks, except for the things that you are committed to. You need to stop. And I was like, oh, really? Really? And it was like, this will change everything. I'm like, okay, what do I have to lose? Right? What do I actually have to lose? Because I was feeling burnt out again. And this was a familiar cycle. I just pushed, I'd launched like a manifesting generator. I was aware that there was the conditioning, but I didn't know how to unhook myself from that conditioning. So I paused. It was around my birthday in November. And it was, what I heard was just pause until the new year and see what comes through. So I went and bought yarn and a crochet hook, and because I sold all of that stuff a while ago. And I just started crocheting and going for long walks and not working when I wasn't doing, because I can work. I like working. I love my business, but I was forcing. And I would show up to CBD calls. I would still be in the energy of CBD. And then one day it all just dropped in what I'm here to do. It just dropped in who I'm here to work with and what my message is. And that was, a huge part of that was me being allowed to be myself as a projector in business in CBD. Because there is no pressure from you saying, well, no, you have to do business this way. You have to do this. You have to do this, which is what I've heard a lot from well-intentioned coaches who don't understand the energetics of different human design types.
And you did. Yeah. Thank you. Beautifully. Yeah. You and I probably have the same, only different experience with business coaches who are not human design informed. And mine is more like that, oh, you're pushing and you're doing too many things. You need to just stick to one thing. You need to, like we all have that conditioning. So I think I know human design is a really important piece of the puzzle. And I love how you in your business. So Juliana, if you're listening, Juliana is a 3/5 splenic projector. So that 3/5 is as big a piece as the projector piece. And I love how you have been just able to let yourself 3/5 things, how you have been able to just let yourself go about things in a kind of unhinged way and see what happens. Because that's what business sometimes requires of us, right? How does that 3/5 play in your business, do you think?
Well, everything has been an experiment. Like it's not always the funnest
Mm-hmm.
because there is a real experimentation, and it's kind of like, okay, I get this splenic. Yes, this is the correct, like, yes, try this. But then sometimes it's like, oh yeah, I picked up a gem from that experience, but it wasn't the thing. And a lot of in the business world, when you're hiring business coaches, when you're learning how to do things, there's always that promise. This will be the thing that you can do, and then you're going to make $1 million or whatever the promise is, right? And what I've really come to accept very deeply is that that's not actually the case, is that I'm going to gather a gem from what I am doing with this particular course or coach that I am working with. And then I'm going to take that and apply that. And the rest is going to go to compost and compost back into the earth. And I don't need to use it. It's allowed me to really appreciate the human journey, my 3-5 line, because it's been messy and it's been joyous, and I've made a lot of mistakes as the 3 lines do. And through that 3-5 line, I've been able to really create a lot of compassion for myself in that, so that I can then bring that back to my clients, because I know it so deeply that I can then bring that back into the work that I do with the women that I work with.
So you were mid-launch when we were in Content by Design, also known as CBD. You were mid-launch, and you actually did like a pretty heavy third line pivot mid-launch in your messaging and because I think you were getting some feedback. We used to talk about empaths and bringing empaths into your world and that sort of thing, and then we kind of were like, I don't know if your person knows knows that they're an empath. I don't know, do they identify with that term? So we had to do a lot of work around, what does your person say about herself? And you ended up on this completely different side where you came to the relationship piece, and that's actually everything. So how did that feel for you, being mid-launch and being like, oh, I actually need to change something on the fly here, something pretty significant?
It kind of felt like whiplash, and there was definitely some feeling of oh, I got it wrong again, and I had to reconcile myself with that, which is normal. I'm okay with that. I know that there's businesses. I have done so much personal growth in my life, and business is the ultimate shadow work. And so
I
with
love that.
business, you are in your shadow work all the time. And so I'm able to go, oh yeah, okay, there's the beliefs that I have about myself. Okay, let's move through that. And I don't think it actually landed for me until I took the space,
Mhm.
right? Because I was so caught up in the launching. Launching is a whole thing on its own. And I don't think I was able to actually process a lot of it until I had that space. But it started to feel good. But it actually didn't anchor until I had the space to let it land. And I think that the people who were in my 2-day event, Devoted, they were a little confused as well. I think there was some confusion as well, because I was confused. And that's what I'm really seeing. I've been really learning in business that if I'm confused, then the people I'm speaking to will be confused. And if I'm out of alignment and integrity and not congruent with my energy, that's felt by people. And I wasn't congruent with my energy. And so that was felt by people. Mm-hmm.
And even with that, you still did have a launch where you brought people in,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and you're delivering that program now.
Mm-hmm.
How's that going for you?
Oh, it's so good. My program's called Sanctuary, and it's for the modern day woman who really wants to transform her relationships. Like, relationships are so juicy, and I believe that honest, loving, and messy relationships are what's going to change the world. If we don't know how to be in relationship with each other, if we don't know how to have hard conversations, the world's going to continue going the way that it's going. But if we can actually sit in the hard conversations with each other and keep our hearts open, that's going to change the world. And so this is what these women are doing right now. And I ended up extending the program from 4 months to 5 months. And we move through everything from the drama triangle, which is a web that sits over the consciousness of humanity. And if you've never heard of the drama triangle, it has three different archetypes, so to speak. You have the victim, you have the savior or the rescuer, and you have the perpetrator. And our whole world bounces in between these archetypes. He said this to me, that was so horrible. Oh my God, did you hear what he did? I need to know now, go help her and make sure that she's okay. And none of us step into our power. We're blaming, pointing fingers, and putting ourselves as victims to our circumstances. And honestly, you can see this play out if you ever watch Canadian politics and you watch them across the floor yelling at each other. That's the drama triangle, and that happens everywhere. So we start with this very real knowing in sanctuary, and I bring it into these women's awareness, because it's actually, and like, it plays out through gossip. It plays out through when we sit there and I can't believe they said that to me in that way. And we hold it in, or we call our girlfriends and tell our girlfriends about it, instead of just going to the person who said the thing to us and go, you know what I noticed when you said those words to me? My body got really tense and I felt really sad and confused. I'm wondering if you can clarify that with me so that I can understand. And then you know what happens? Either the other person goes, can I swear?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. The other person goes, who the fuck is this? And they're out. They're gone from the relationship, which is great, because why do you want a relationship where you can't be honest and vulnerable and yourself? Or they go, oh, I don't know. And they stay in this conversation, and the whole relationship starts to change. You change your relationship dance. We go into these relationship dances. It's like you're waltzing, and you're unconscious. You join a relationship and you start stepping and dancing to this rhythm. And then one of you becomes conscious and you're like, oh, I don't like this dance anymore. And so then you start to change the dance, which is having vulnerable conversations like that. So you step differently, and your dance partner goes, what are you doing? And they're going to stumble a little bit. And so it takes a lot of courage and an ability to stay really embodied and be comfortable with your own emotions when you watch your friends, your family, your husband stumble and question what you're up to as you're changing the relationship dance. And then it takes a lot of compassion. We have to bring compassion to our relationships to go, yeah, I just changed the dance. I went from a waltz to I don't know, another name of a dance, right? Like, I went to another dance. And so of course it's going to take them a little bit to catch up. And I actually need to communicate to them what's going on, right? How many women go all the time, well, he should just know what I need. They should just know. How do they not know? That's bullshit. We have been conditioned to believe that our loved ones are against us, and that we can't speak and ask for what we need. But that's the only way we get the relationships we want, is to communicate who we are and then ask people to step in with us.
That's beautiful. And I'm like, wow, I need to work with Juliana. I think every woman listening is going, I need to work with Juliana. Prepare for your next launch. There'll be no rest time for the projector because you'll be enrolling all these people. No, we don't want you not resting as a projector. But yeah, I can feel the clarity that you bring to the conversation now compared with where you were at in the beginning. And I love that you brought spaciousness into it, because I feel like that's been a theme in every conversation I've been in business-wise for the last 6 months at least. The group has been talking about and taking spaciousness more seriously, because that's the only way we can actually do the things that we're here to do, is by giving ourselves space and grace as we third line our businesses all the way. Whether you're a third line or not, you're going to third line your business, right? Because business is third line. So what's next for you with your business, with Sanctuary? Where do you see it going?
Well, first, I feel called just to say this one thing. What I'm speaking about around changing the dance, I have changed the relationship with my mom through that. My mom and I have a very close relationship now. And before her mother died, there's a family lineage of mother-daughter being really disconnected. So my mom and I are deeply connected now. Before my Nana died, my mom was able to actually find connection with her. So through this work, I've changed that pattern in the mother-daughter relationship in my family. And my ex-fiance, we were actually able to consciously uncouple. You hear that trendy word, but we actually did it from love and devotion to one another, that we wanted what was best for each other. There was no fighting. There was no blaming. Of course, there was grief. Of course, there was tears, but we did it because we were able to stay in relationship while changing the type of our relationship. And this is what I want for everyone. And I know it's possible.
I had never actually heard that term before I heard it from you, the unconscious uncoupling. You were talking about it, and I was like, wow, that sounds really beautiful.
And it takes a lot, conscious uncoupling. It takes so much, because you have to be responsible for yourself and your emotions, and allow the other person to be responsible for themselves, and process your own feelings and your own grief, and hold that other person actually wants the best for you. Just because the relationship doesn't go the way that you originally had hoped or planned doesn't mean that the love's not still there. And so that is infused in all of the work that I do, that I've seen that change with my mom. I've seen that change with my dear friend now, Oliver. And I went from having no friends and feeling very separate in the world to being surrounded by like a group of beautiful women where I can be in relationship like this with. And it's profound what happens when we can do that. And then our children see that. And then our children go, oh, I can actually talk about the hard things. Yeah. So I just needed to add that.
Yeah, I'm glad that you did. I love also whenever I'm working with, well, mostly I'm working with women, but it's that understanding that whenever we heal not only for ourselves, but we heal generations back and generations to come, which is really important work to be doing on the planet.
That is what's needed. That is what's needed, because when our relationships change, everything around us changes. It's like I was in the grocery store the other day, and the cashier, she was having one of her, I've been a cashier in a grocery store where you're just done with scanning groceries and typing in produce codes. And I see how much we're always in relationship. And so I was just in myself, and I was recognizing she's probably tired, and she's probably had a long day, and she's probably just done. And so I was watching her and going, yeah, that's probably what her experience is. How many times do we go through and we're like, oh, the person didn't look at me. Oh, she didn't smile at me. Oh, what's wrong with her, right? We make it about us. No, no, it's not. Like, we're not that important to that person, right? And so I'm in that energy. And then right at the end, as I give her my cash and she gives me my change, she looks me in the eyes, and I see her whole face soften, and she just looks in my eyes, and we have this beautiful exchange. No words, no like silly, hi, how are you as a greeting. Was this really beautiful relational messaging that didn't require any words. And I felt both of us just soften. She softened, she dropped into her heart, and I could feel this surprise, like, wow, this is different. That is how we change the world. When we can have experiences like that, that ripples everywhere.
And I don't know about you, but I find when I'm out now, we don't look each other in the eye anymore. It used to be, we're both Canadian, and used to be here, you walk down the street and everybody looked you in the eye, everybody spoke, everybody, and now it's like everybody's got blinders on and they're too busy, they're too focused, they're too whatever. So that's beautiful, even just that. And it probably was only a few seconds, but it mattered.
Yeah. Yeah. And even if that's not in that woman's conscious awareness, that created a shift in the morphogenetic field that exists around us. Like, we have been conditioned to believe that we are so insignificant, and that is such bullshit. It is like, when you can change a moment, that changes so much that we will never be aware of. And so when we can connect to ourselves, when we can connect to nature, when we connect to other human beings, it has more impact than anyone can actually comprehend. And I speak to that from my own experience, just how my life has changed.
So,
back to your original question.
Well, no, I mean, I have so many questions now. I could just listen to you talk forever, because it's such important work. It's such important work. You think of the number of people, the number of times any of us really feel unseen in our lives, right? And sometimes that's all someone needs, is just for someone to see them. Yeah. How has that mattered for you as a projector, being able to be seen and recognized?
Great question. I had a flash of when I was a waitress. That's what got me through school, and was kind of my bridge job to when I fully started working for myself. And as a projector in a restaurant, I learned that I was a projector in a work when I was waitressing. And that was when I started really noticing the difference, because before I knew I was a projector, I would be like, why are they so charismatic? And why does every table that they go to like want to know them? And then when I learned that I was a projector, I'm like, oh, because they're all probably generators. So they have that like gorgeous, big enveloping aura, and people are feeling me. And they're like, either I would have the experience of people like, who are you? Like they would want to know me, or they would want to tell me everything, or it was like I was invisible. And when I learned that I was a projector, I was like, oh, this makes so much sense. And so this was after my psychotherapy training as well. And so I was like really deep in my understanding of emotions and having vulnerable conversations with people. And so when I would have tables that I felt could see me, I would do this really playful experiment. And because we have this greeting in Canada, we all just say, hi, how are you, as a hello, right? We don't actually wait for the true, like, when we ask that, we don't really want to know how someone is, right? And so I remember very clearly this mother-daughter that were in for happy hour. And I was very tired. This was before I'd really healed my burnout. I was very tired that day and probably quite bitter, but I was still okay. But I'm like, I can't put on the waitress mask today. Like, I just can't put it on. And this mother-daughter, they were so sweet, and they saw me. And the mother said, well, how are you? And I looked at her, I said, do you really want to know? And she was like, yeah. And so I told them. And it was so beautiful, because I started to feel when someone really saw me and wanted to know versus someone who didn't. And it was like drinking water in that exchange. When I feel seen, it feels like, oh, I'm getting so filled up by that other person seeing me.
Just a quick little commercial break here for you. I am getting ready to present a 3-day free masterclass series. And this is for you if you are not making enough money in your business. Maybe you're putting offers out there, but they're just not landing like they should. You feel like you're never having that launch that you think you should have. You hear everybody talking about these huge launches and you're like, what am I doing wrong? Well, if that's happening to you, then there are two things that could possibly be wrong in your business. Number one is that there's something wrong with your offer. Something is not converting with your audience. They hear you talk about your offer and they're like, yeah, I don't know if I need that or not. And we're going to fix that in this masterclass series. The second thing is that your message is not clear. You are not getting really clear on what you're here to say, how you need to say it, and who you're actually speaking to so that you can land more paying clients with ease. And I'm going to show you how to leverage your human design so that you can do exactly that. It's a free 3 days with me, where each class is probably about an hour and a half long. There'll be lots of opportunity for hot seat coaching. We are going to come in and we are going to fix what's going wrong in your business so that you can make the money that you're here to make and have the impact you're here to have. So how, if there's a projector listening to this, or for the projectors listening to this, is there a tip that you can give them for how to understand when someone's seeing you, or how to maybe accept when someone's seeing you or not seeing you?
Experiment. You need to experiment with it. And you need to watch how, like, connecting into your body is so important. Your body is going to tell you whether you feel seen or not. Your body is going to go, oh yeah, it feels safe here. There's an element of like feeling safe when I feel seen. And experiment with it. There was, when I was staying up in Lillooet this summer, this man came by to fix the air conditioning. And him and I had some similar world Canadian political views. And he started talking talking all about what he saw. And I was listening and listening and listening. And I was like, okay, yeah, we have similar viewpoints on the world. And I'm like, but I'm not really sure if he sees me. And I could tell because he didn't ever really look me in the eye, and he never asked. He never asked my opinion. But I'm like, and I consciously was like, I'm just going to try. And so I brought in my spiritual perspective on what's going on in the world. I brought that in. And immediately, his eyes got really big for a second. He shut down and he left.
Wow.
He was out. And then I saw him at a music thing in the park, like 2 hours later, that we both had. He's like, oh yeah, you should come, when he was talking my ear off. And I went up to him and said, hello. And he was just like,
wow.
And even though I knew that I was doing that experiment to see if he actually saw me, if he recognized me, it still felt weird. I was with my friend who's a emotional manifesting generator and knows human design. And I was like saying to her, this feels so icky in my body, even though I like experimented with it very consciously. I was like, I'm going to actually test this out. So you need to experiment to see what happens for you, but watch the body cues. Watch when, like, even my girlfriends, it's like I can feel when they're ready to hear me. There's like a click that happens. They're like, most of my girlfriends are generators or manifesting generators, and their sacral's buzzing and they're doing their thing and they're telling me what's going on. And then it's like, there's a drop. I can feel their energy drop. And then they're like, how are you? What's going on? And then they can hear, right? But if I put in before that's ready, or if I don't make a request, so I can go and I can say, can you hear me right now? I need to be seen and heard right now. Mm-hmm. They immediately will drop into that. Mm-hmm. And so it's this real energetic, and for me, it's always body-based sensation of when I feel seen or not, or when it's ready, it's time for me to speak or not.
I wonder too, for projectors who maybe aren't as deep in their experiment or haven't experimented as much or as intentionally, I wonder if they even know what it feels like to be seen or recognized. So that's a good tip to get in the body.
That I was gonna make a cheeky little playful plug. That's why they need to join Sanctuary.
Yes, definitely.
Because they'll learn how to do that.
Yeah.
A really good tip is to take time on your own, be in your own energy, and notice how you feel in your own space. It might be uncomfortable at first, because if you've been running the conditioning of being around, like being a generator, a manifesting generator, which is what most projectors are conditioned to be, there's going to be a lot of buzzing going around, going through your body. And that buzzing needs to be released. Get quiet and sit. Just close your eyes, put on some music with no lyrics, and just put your hands on your belly or your heart and do it for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, and just see what it feels like to be within yourself. And it's like learning a new language, because you need to reacquaint yourself with what your energy actually feels like for you. I have to do this. I still have to do this regularly. After a week with my family over Christmas in Victoria, I was like, oh, I came back here to the Sunshine Coast and I'm like, I have to cancel everything. I have to cancel everything. I just need, and not from burnout, not from exhaustion. It was just from knowing my energy is, I'm holding on to my family's energy, and I need the opportunity to let that go. And another thing that I suggest to my projectors is do an inventory of times in your life where you look back and go, did I feel seen there or not? Mm-hmm. And like process through yourself, how did it feel when I felt seen? And how did it feel when I didn't feel seen? So that your mind starts to become aware of what it is you're tracking, because your mind needs to understand what is it that you're tracking. And one of the best ways we can do that is when we look back in our lives. Oh yeah, with that friend, when she would stop and listen and sit across the table from me and like really look at me, I would feel seen. Oh yeah, when my family would ignore me at the dinner table, that was when I didn't feel seen. Oh yeah, that boyfriend that I dated, he totally didn't see me. Oh, that one did. Oh, that felt really good in my body. Oh, that actually felt really awful. And I remember this like constant anxiety during that relationship.
I like how you're speaking, because I think it highlights the deep inner work that's needed. And I feel like sometimes people in all spiritual spaces, but in the human design space, kind of bypass the inner work. And we fall into that, well, I'm a manifesting generator, or I'm a projector. So I've worked with so many projectors who, I mean, you probably have as well, where they come in and they're, like you say, conditioned to be generators or manifesting generators. And I wonder how much of that is that continual buzzing that projectors would carry in their bodies from being conditioned all the time and never letting themselves be alone to actually feel into their body. It's like there's this like energetic electrocution going on in their bodies all the time, because that happens often in my world, where projectors come in and, they see the chart and then, no, that doesn't resonate. I'm not a projector. I know that was your experience was different. You knew right away. You're like, oh, that fits. But just this week, I had someone come in and say, yeah, I don't really think I'm a projector. And I'm like, well, yeah, you really are a projector. But I like this analogy of, if you're surrounded by generators and manifesting generators, your own energy is buzzing and you need to let it dissipate. And I love that you said pre-burnout, because I feel like that's something we're all guilty of, is that we wait until we can't do anymore. But what if you did it a little bit before you were burned out? That would change everything.
Mm-hmm. Oh, totally. I think I was able to really understand that I was a projector because I had just been in a 4-year deep emotional process to become a psychotherapist. I had to do my own work in that. And I came out the other side having done all of this shadow work, all of this inner child healing, all of this family system healing, all of this somatic stuff. And I still felt that there was something fucking wrong with me. And I was like, what is going on? And then when this lovely, gorgeous woman, this curly hair, like your hair, she walked up to me at a party and said, have you ever heard of human design? I was like, no. She goes, I think you're a projector. I can feel your bitterness across the room. And I was like, tell me more. Because I was aware of this disparity between how I thought that I should be feeling after all of this work and how I actually was feeling. And that's why I've chosen to no longer do one-off human design readings. I'm only working with human design in my group program, Sanctuary, because I can't in integrity offer human design readings anymore without offering the deep work that I believe is really required to embody your design. Otherwise, it just turns into more information, and we don't need more information. We need to drop into our bodies and really tap into the truth within us. And there's so much information in the human design world. Thank you, human design, for changing my life. And that information gets us into the not self mind. And then we're existing in the mind and we're scurrying around thinking, oh, I'm this, so I can't do this. It's like I have received invitations from mountains. The traditional human design world would say that's not an invitation.
Yeah.
I was lying in bed one morning and I'm like, I'm going to sleep in today. It's Saturday. And I heard in Victoria, there's this mountain called Mount Doug. And I was in Victoria at the time. And I heard Mount Doug calling me, come to the mountain. We want you here. And I'm like, oh, I don't want to get up and go for a hike. I want to stay in bed. And the mountain was like, come. Oh, and I couldn't go back to sleep because the mountain was running through me. So I got up and I drove to the mountain and I hiked up the mountain. It's a beautiful view. And then I'm coming down and it's all like Garry Oak meadow. Like the Garry Oaks in Victoria are so beautiful. And they're all like stunted Garry Oaks that are probably 100 years old at least, but they're short. And it's like perfect fairy elven imagination realm. You can just walk through and imagine. And there's eagles and hawks and crows. And I'm walking down and suddenly there's this energy running through my body that I have never felt that strongly before. And it was like elemental energy. And I started skipping down the mountain like this childlike play. And I could feel the elemental realm communicating with me and going like, thank you for coming. We wanted to visit with you. And the trees were like, their energy was just pulsating and I was leaning against them and I was communing with the mountain. And that was an invitation. But the traditional human design world would say that's bullshit. You only get invitations from people and in their aura. And I just don't believe that that's true. But I had to be in my own body and be able to trust myself and in experiment, because maybe it wasn't an invitation, but only I will know what my invitations are. You can give me the information about what an invitation is, but it's only me who's ever going to know what my invitations are. Another projector is going to have a completely different experience of invitations, just like your sacral response and your emotional wave are going to feel totally different than the other emotional manifesting generator sitting next to you, right?
Yeah, 100%. And I love how you honor your no with invitation as well. That's happened with us before where I have invited you to something and you're like, oh my God, this is killing me. But I know in my body I need to say no. And I love that about you and any projector who will actually say no, because it might feel sometimes, what I hear from projectors, that you might feel sometimes like, oh my God, what if they don't ask again? Or, oh my God, what if I'm saying no to the wrong? Yeah.
Greatest fear of a projector.
Really?
If I say no, oh my goodness, they will never ask me again. I chose to cancel a hike with a friend the week after, like the first week of January where I had off because I was like, I cannot have anything in my calendar. I need to flow. And I said no. And I mean, she's a dear, dear friend, but I noticed that like, oh, there's that projector fear that she's never going to want to see me again. Right. That she'll never, which is so hilarious because it's not true, but that's the conditioning that we run with. And it takes emotional proficiency to be able to feel that experience within the body And then also hold the truth, your truth, and then also hold the truth of the relationship. And then and step into trust. Can I trust this relationship? And then we can always say, well, if the person never wants to see you again, then that's not really the relationship you want to have anyhow, right? But it takes this emotional literacy and proficiency to be able to be comfortable in your discomfort as you're deconditioning.
Mm-hmm.
Can I find some comfort in this like highly uncomfortable experiment?
Yeah. And I love that you say trusting yourself. That's a question I feel like is important for all of us a lot of times, is what area of my life requires a little more trust from me? And almost all of us have some area of our life that requires more trust.
I woke up this morning. I had all of these spinny dreams last night. Like, oh my goodness, like spinny, sweaty dreams. And I woke up this morning, and when I have dreams like that, my mind wakes up very active. And my mind was like, oh, you need to do this, you need to do this, and you need to do this, all in my business. You need to do this. And I'm just like, oh, and I could feel my anxiety rising.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how I ran my business before CBD, from that place. And I was like, okay, watching it, watching the anxiety and watching my mind. And I go, no, we're not operating from this place anymore. So I had to trust myself that what I need to do in that place is drop into my, I say drop into my womb, drop into my belly, and bring my mind, calm my mind down by bringing it into my heart.
Mm.
That the mind can exist down here and down in the heart space. And I can drop down into my womb space, and that is where the truth of what needs to come next, that needs to happen in business, not from this high mind place of I'm going to make all the decisions for you. Because we all know in human design that the mind is not here to make decisions.
Yeah.
So it really takes that awareness and then dropping in. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I think that's really common in the business space when you don't have human design as part of it, is that it's all of this mental to-do list that's constantly running in your mind, is like how many, and we end up with this being busy in our businesses all the time. Like, wake up in the morning, what am I going to do in my business? What am I going to do in my business? Instead of understanding, okay, well, I've got a launch in the next 3 months. These are the things that actually need to happen for that. So since you mentioned CBD, I'm going to come back to CBD just for a minute here. I could talk to you for hours, but I'm like, oh my gosh, we've been talking for quite a while.
Oh, we have.
I could just talk all afternoon, but we're not Tim Ferriss or Joe Rogan, so maybe we won't do that. How would you describe CBD? And I'm going to give you a little bit of a parameter, but you can go outside of it if you want, because one of the things that I hear from people all the time is, I don't need another course. And I'm like, but CBD isn't a course. And I know throughout the process, a lot of people inside CBD were saying, yeah, it's an immersion, it's an experience, it's a one person called it a business sprint. How would you describe CBD outside of a course?
Okay, so to me, CBD is this, it's a experiential container that is so much more than content based. It is about being in community with other business owners who are all doing it their own way. And CBD allows you to find your way to do business and then translate it through your content, while having all of these other people who do business their way, so that you get the evidence that there's not just one way to do business. That's how I would describe CBD.
Yeah. Thank you. I love that. And I'm in my head, I'm like seeing all of the women. This time we had 23 women in CBD, and I'm like, yeah, you're so right, because there's not any, there were, I can't remember how many, maybe 4 projectors.
Yeah, I think so.
And we didn't have a reflector. We had Manny, Jens, and Jens, but not one person in there has the same business model as the next. And you were all sharing ideas and sharing lead magnets and different ways of bringing people into your world and all these things. And nobody's copying, and nobody's threatened that somebody, or afraid that someone's going to copy them. Like, it's just a beautiful experience, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So If there is someone listening who is thinking about joining CBD, because we are probably when this episode airs, we are right ready to launch, what would your advice be to them, other than following their own human design authority?
Yeah, I would say if you've been trying lots of different courses, this is so beyond a course. This is so beyond content. It is an opportunity to really get to know yourself and who you want to be in business. And so I would just say, just do it. That's the bossy 4323 in me that comes out and says, just do it.
One of my favorite channels, as you know. Yeah. And you're going to be launching something right around the time this episode airs. You're going to be launching your new website. Can you tell us about that?
Well, as I've been talking about relationships, this was what came through for me in CBD. Is I'm here to talk about relationships. And so my new website is, and this is, what is this? Fourth iteration of my website, very 3-line of me, but this feels very, very true. The most true it's ever felt. And my new website is holding this overarching energy that your relationships are meant to be as supportive, loving, resilient as an old growth forest, without hiding your mess, your genius, or your dreams. And everything that I'm going to be bringing in and sharing to the people in my world is around how to cultivate relationships. I say all the time that you're in relationship with everything. You're in relationship with this water glass. You're in relationship with your phone. Everything in life is relationships. And so as my new website comes out, I have a few different offerings coming in. I'm going to be relaunching a sanctuary in the fall. So we're going to have the second run of sanctuary is going to start in the fall. And in the meantime, I'm going to be running community circles called Relationship Alchemy Community Circles. And they're going to be on the second Saturday of every month. I'm not sure yet whether that will begin in February or March. I need to see where my energy and the collective energy is at, but it'll be on the second Saturday of every month at 10 a.m. Pacific time. And I'm going to be starting a podcast.
Yay! Oh, yay!
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
Yay.
it just came
So
through.
great.
It came through really clearly because I was feeling all muddled about a direction that I was going to go in, this new direction in my business. And it just kept feeling like I was muddled. I was like, what's going on? And I was in meditation one morning, and then I went for a walk, and through the meditation and then the walk, which is a walking meditation. And it just dropped in. You need to just start your podcast now, because that was a plan for Q4, but it's like, no, it needs to happen now. And as soon as that dropped in, all of the muddledness went away. Mm-hmm.
I love it.
Yeah. So it's going to be called Relationship Alchemy as well. And Relationship Alchemy is changing a base metal into gold. And if you look into a forest, the forest is constantly in an alchemical process of transformation, of letting the old things die so that that which is dying can compost and give life to the new growth. There is an interdependence where the old growth Douglas fir is sheltering the young sun-sensitive cedar trees, and the moss that is being grown on the hemlock trees are growing as is home for like little bugs and insects, and then the birds feed on that. And I mean, I could talk for hours about how the forest is constantly in this alchemical, regenerative, transformational process. And that's what our relationships are meant to do. We are not static. You and I, from the time that we've known each other, 2 or 3 years now, we have both changed individually. And what happens in relationship is we expect the person that we're in relationship with to stay the same. And then when they start to change, we get really pissed off or confused or sad or scared, because what if they're going to change and then they're going to leave me, right? But it's like, so how do we allow the natural alchemical process of our relationships to happen so that we can grow and thrive?
Absolutely beautiful. And that's what you're going to be talking about in your podcast.
Yes, and that's what I'm going to be running in my relationship alchemy circles. They're going to be very interactive, and I'm going to be bringing in all sorts of teachings that I teach in Sanctuary, of little ways that you can improve your relationships, practices, everything from very practical things to dissecting the drama triangle, to embodiment practices, to energetic practices. Mm-hmm.
And are those circles online or in person?
They're online. Yeah.
Okay.
They'll be in the Zoom world.
Yay. So that means that everybody can attend who's listening if they would like to. Well, maybe not for capacity, but yes, we can all have a shot at attending. Okay. So I appreciate you being here. Thank you very much. I always love getting to have conversations with you, and I've missed you since the last round of CBD ended. Where can people find you? Where's that new website address of yours?
Best place to find me is julianachristine.com.
Okay. And then we will link that.
And then you'll be able to find all of once my website's live, which will be at the end of January, beginning of February, you'll be able to find all of that information on there, how to work with me.
Excellent. Thank you so much for being here. I'll link all that up in the show notes for you so that you can find Juliana really easily. She is a person that you definitely want to know. You want this woman in your corner. So I appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you, Vickie. I appreciate you too.